battle to save the country's green lung, and the government shut down 15 primary schools in the Masai Mau forest in the course of the second phase of eviction. And the Rift Valley Region Commissioner George Natembeya says the schools are illegal and disputed concerns by the Rift Valley leaders that the evictions would cause a humanitarian crisis. And now Bridget Ngana reported on this yesterday, and she joins us live. She's going to be speaking to the regional commissioner also. But Bridget, the question that a lot of people are asking, 15 schools shut down. What is likely to happen to the students? Because on the 2nd, that's Monday the other week, students are reporting to school. So what happens even before you speak to the regional commissioner?
Well, Ken, it is a question that we are here this morning at the office of the Regional Commissioner of the Rift Valley, Mr. George Natembeya, and he's going to help us understand what really is the fate of the pupils in these schools. As he said, when the government moved in to close the schools, that these were not legitimate schools, they were not recognized by the Ministry of Education, they do not have TSC registered teachers, and as a matter of fact, there was a lot of corrupt dealings that the state lost 60 million shillings to set up these satellite 15 schools within the forest, yet they were being sponsored by fully registered schools outside the forest. But the man himself, the man who has been championing the conservation or the reclamation of the Masai Mau forest, George Natembeya, is here today this morning. He's going to tell us what is the plan of the government as far as protecting the country's green lung, because the Mau forest is a water tower in this country. Thank you, sir, for joining us on NTV today. For somebody who doesn't know what the Masai Mau is, how big is it and how important is it in the Mau complex?
Thank you, Bridget. The Masai Mau is about 46,000 hectares. It's actually one of the biggest blocks of the 22 Mau complex blocks. It's a very critical water tower. Actually, it's gazetted as such by the Kenya Water Towers Agency. It is the source of very many rivers. It even feeds the Lake Victoria, and therefore the water goes all the way to even to Egypt. And that's why the conservation of this forest is very critical, not just for the people of Narok, Bomet, Kericho, and the neighboring counties, but also the neighboring countries and the region as large.
The concern is these schools have been shut down. Are there pupils who are going to be affected because schools are opening soon?
First of all, it's unfortunate that we let this continue for this long, because these are not they're not schools. They're not registered. They don't have qualified teachers, maybe drawn from the TSC. They have not been receiving free primary education funds from the government, and therefore we are denying our children what I can call their right, because when children don't have a very good foundation, again they suffer later on. I want to confirm that when we began this work last year, many of the children actually moved out of those so-called schools, because we've got very nice schools in the neighborhood. And I want to thank the parents who have heeded to our call that their children go to proper schools instead of these community learning centers. Yeah.
How did it now go to the extent of the government funding schools that are allegedly feeder schools to the legitimate schools? What really happened in that process?
The settlement of people in the Masai Mau was based on deception, because people just ballooned group ranches into. Sorry.
Okay, sorry. Is this okay? As he hangs up, it's a conversation that's continuing. He's saying that these schools are not legitimate schools, and there was some corrupt dealings among government officials. This is a confession that is shattering when the government confesses that truly some of its officers were plundering public funds. Mr. Natembeya, you were explaining how these schools were being set up.
Yeah, so as I was saying, the settlement of people into the Masai Mau forest was based on a deception, yeah, because they did not follow proper procedures. The group ranges that ballooned into the forests actually had title deeds with acreages, but during the subdivision, they ballooned into the forest. So they were done wrongly. Now, to justify the narrative that the government is aware about all these things, somebody thought that it would be wise to have schools established, yeah, in these areas. But they could not do that legally because the land was not available for establishment of these public utilities because the forest land. So what they did, somebody called 15 head teachers from the neighboring schools that border the forest, and they were told they were going to be given funds, 4 million shillings each, to construct, to put up infrastructure, but not in the actual schools. So they were told, for you, we've been given this 4 million, but go and put up structures in this particular place. So we had 15 schools given the public funds, but to put up structures in the area that you marked for them for the forest.
Now, with this finding, will the government maybe take measures against these persons, because it is also a corrupt affair?
We're heading there. We're not just going to close schools, but somebody's going to be held accountable in terms of how did it come that government funds were being used in a place where they're not supposed to be utilized. So it's going to be part of our work as we go forward in rehabilitating the forest.
This time you're employing a different strategy all over. During the first phase, we did see a lot of boots on the ground, but again, this time also saying the boots will be on the ground, but it will not be in a controversial way where people will be feeling like their rights are being contravened.
We want to work with the community, first of all, by really educating them. And we want them to have open minds. Let them not have those closed minds. We want them to understand that somebody duped them to come and settle on forest land, on government land that was not available for settlement. Because this narrative will never change. You can stay there for 100 years, but still you will not be comfortable even to build a proper house there, because you know any time it will be moved. So we want them to understand that, in fact, they've already wasted a lot of time. So even as we start the second phase, which is going to involve even planting trees, and ensuring that human activities cease, they become part and parcel of our program. And that's why we're saying the next 60 days we're going to engage them. Those who are going to who will be willing to assist us in planting those trees, we are going to engage them. Those who are willing to assist us putting up, erecting that fence, we are going to engage them. They're going to be paid so that they can do that work. So at the end of the day, it's not as the government that's interested in protecting and rehabilitating the forest, but let even the people themselves own this project, because at the end of the day, we are going to have people bordering the forest, and they must conserve it.
How are you going to prevent flare-ups in terms of ethnic conflict at such a time? We are going to engage people. Of course, people don't just fight. People fight because maybe somebody has incited them. And you've put all those political hotheads, we put them on notice that this time around we're not going to allow anybody to incite the people to fight each other, purposely to frustrate government effort, because these are just short-term measures. You will not make people fight, but do not take the problem away. The problem will still be there. So we are going to, first of all, to engage the people, engage the political leaders, but over and above that, we are going to have enough officers on the ground who are going to protect that fence, who are going to protect the vehicles that we are going to put, and those who are going to oversee the planting and the rehabilitation of that forest. So we'll have enough security officers on the ground to respond to any issue that may arise between different communities in that area. And I want to confirm that the movement of people is going to involve all other communities that are living there, even the places where the Masai have encroached in the forest. That area of Ngareta, that area of Naisoya, we are going to get the Masai out of the forest. The area of Sierra Leone, we are going to get other communities from that forest. So it's not like we're going to target just one community the way people want to create that narrative. And briefly, are there sacred cows? Because you do know there are prominent people who claim ownership of land within the Mau. So are you still protecting them?
We don't have sacred cows in that area. As a matter of fact, the government has done a cross petition in court, and we have published about 700 title deeds that we want cancelled because they were acquired fraudulently. The people are calling sacred cows. Those are the powerful fellows who are working with land registrars and surveyors, to get title deeds, the so-called title deeds, and procedurally. But as I said, it's easier to follow the law and get these documents properly instead of cutting corners, and now they are now facing consequences. So I want to confirm that there are no sacred cows.
Okay, thank you so much. That is the Regional Commissioner, Rift Valley Regional Commissioner George Natembeya, saying that the operation in the Mau continues. It is going to take 60 days. Those schools that apparently were closed down do not even have pupils at the moment, and they are following up on ensuring that this process and this time it will be final, and evidently we will not be having issues of encroachment in the Mau forest. One of the things that is also mentioned is that they're going to fence this Mau forest, the 70,000 hectares that are going to recover now in this second phase, and this will prevent people from encroaching back into the forest. But according to the regional commissioner, he also says that there are no sacred cows and nobody is going to be favored in this restoration effort of the Mau complex. Ken.